Hey guys, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse bringing you a new episode today. Now, on today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Chris Lucas, and he is the founder and CEO at Lucas Solutions. And Chris has been involved in the 3PL side of things, distribution, fulfillment for quite some time. And now he has ventured into his own company and working on something pretty interesting, which he's been telling me about kind of periodically over the last year or so as well as he's been developing. And we're going to dive a little bit into his background today, and we're also going to talk a little bit about what he saw out there in the market and what's kind of led up to him now wanting to do his own thing and what he's kind of putting out there. So Chris, welcome to the show. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Yeah, this is we've been talking about this for a while, and I kind of wanted to have my ducks in a row before we hopped on, and I'll probably never get there. I'm glad we're doing it now to have a conversation and give you some updates on things.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I think that you never fully get the ducks in a row, in my opinion, right? There's always one duck that's maybe just a little out there. But
We're
yeah, I
all
mean,
over the
it's
place.
definitely, definitely. But it's great to get you on. I know you have a great network and connections of people in the industry, and you've been in the industry for a while, as in the 3PL space specifically. So I guess kick it off. Tell us a little bit about kind of your background and how you got into the space in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky in the sense, like career wise, just things.
Mm,
I get lucky when things fall into place, and then looking back, maybe you make things happen sometimes, right?
yeah.
It's you can't plan for everything. Even my first job and internship with KPMG, I missed career day when they were there on campus, and the guy came to my class by chance to speak, who was with KPMG, and I sent him a letter apologizing for missing career day because I was busy working on a charity project, and that turned into an internship that got me started at KPMG in accounting and finance, which
Mm,
I kind of knew I didn't want to do it forever, but that what better place to start a career? I mean, KPMG gave me the opportunity to work with incredible companies. When you
mm,
understand the financial statements, you understand what drives companies and how they operate. Um, so I was there for about 5 years in that space. I went to Steve Cohen's hedge fund, Point 72, for about a year and a half after that. Followed a manager that I worked with at KPMG. Um, Probably the coolest person I ever worked for, so it was a no-brainer to go work with him. And Point 72 was amazing. Just for me, that was when I ran out of passion for the accounting audit industry. It just I knew I have to enjoy what I'm doing more. And Steve Cohen was so supportive of it and said, "What do you want to be doing? Is there anything here?" And I learned so much from him and that company, and really just amazing people. So I've been fortunate to work at incredible companies in the first stage of my career in the accounting finance world, and then was fortunate to know Jim DeVoe for a couple of years, who was the CEO of Tailored Services, and was kept telling me, "You're not meant to be an accountant. You need to be working with more people. Like, just come on board the sales team when you're ready, and I'll teach you the industry, and you'll do well." So I eventually took him up on that, and man, he put me to work. He made me learn it. He had me work in the
mm.
warehouse. I worked on the receiving floor, put away, pick and pack. He wanted me to know how the operations work before trying to sell anything. And I think
Yeah.
that strategy paid off. I was hungry, young. He knew I could hustle. So the work ethic I think he saw was there. And there's so much more to it. It's not like he always told me, we're not just putting stuff in boxes and shipping it. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
not boring like everyone thinks once you're involved in supply chain. And Jim DeVoe was just like ahead of his time in seeing things, long term planning, understanding how the industry works. So I was so lucky that he took me under his wing, taught me everything. And then I had an amazing team at Tailored Services. Chris Kearns was and Brian Southwell were the two sales guys there at the time, and took me under their wing as well and just guided me through everything you need to know. And I had exposure to things that normally someone at my level wouldn't have. Like I was in meetings, not allowed to speak, or knew I shouldn't, but
Mm,
listening to engineering calls, IT meetings, on technology operations. The the ownership group board presentations asking for, whenever I could help. But I was able to like help with the slide, but I'm seeing the slide deck that they're presenting to the board. And for
Mm.
me, I learned that being a part of like a smaller mid-sized company is really fun when you can have your hands in
Mm.
all different aspects, because that's how things have to work. You have to wear more than just one hat. Um, so that's how I got into supply chain. Some crazy stuff happened along the way. Like I got us into a deal within a couple of months of being a tailored that was like one of the largest accounts that we won in the
Mm.
history of Taylor. It's a powerful
Oh, wow.
brand, and it was from I probably sent 1,000 LinkedIn messages, and for
Yeah.
every 1,000 you get 5 responses, and one's maybe this. And it just so happened the CEO of this company was looking for a provider to help in the New Jersey area at the time. I was honest with him. That's maybe what resonated. I was like, look, I'm very new to the industry, very new to this company,
Mm.
but it's amazing people. I think you should have a conversation with them. And he called my cell phone, led to us the next weekend helping them with their returns, which is where, again, like Tom McCormick, the CIO for Tailored at the time, put a solution together over a weekend. Like it was all hands on deck when the client needed something. I love that. It was
Yeah.
like, and for me, the big switch was I was auditing financials and looking back at what was done, a successful quarter, a successful year. Now I was impacting a company and their financials, and I was part of what's going to, when the auditors come in and look at Taylor's financial statements next quarter, I did something that impacted the financials. So that always tied in the accounting and thinking of financials, but I like being on the other side of it,
Mm.
making something happen, good or bad, right? So then that company apparently was trying to raise money. They were a great account for a few months, huge, did a ton of revenue just in a few months alone, and then they
Yeah.
went bankrupt. We got stuck with some inventory, and then,
Oh,
and
wow.
then he asked me to sell the inventory, figure out what to do with it. Like that situation, it's in the contract, right? That happened, all happened so fast. I went from like hero for closing this, uh,
Yeah.
zero because they went bankrupt, and it's still a brand that I look back, I'm like, they were ahead of their time. They were doing try it before you
Mm.
buy at home before anyone, and
Oh, wow.
didn't have the right. I don't know. There were some things that were missing, but they were onto something, and I saw that in them, and still close with the folks that were at that company. Um, but yeah, so then I had to go out, and I'm like, okay, now I'm selling inventory. Like I don't really, and it worked out. Like we actually sold it for way more than we thought to a partner who had the right infrastructure to sell it.
Oh,
They could
nice.
afford to
Yeah.
pay. Like we almost sold it for what we were owed, and I think everybody,
Mm.
it worked out pretty well. But what a crazy way to start! And there's
Yeah.
things in
Yeah.
between that happened where I like found that this is probably shouldn't say this confidentially, but I found the proposal, like their proposal review of all the providers they were looking at. I found it in the garbage outside their building
Mm.
when I went to throw out a piece of gum, and I was like, "Oh my god, I
Oh.
know what our pricing is at," and like, I was like, "I don't know what to do with this. I shouldn't have this." I ended up
Yeah.
telling them that I found it, but turns out our pricing was the most competitive anyway. So
Oh,
we were
yeah.
like in
That's like,
the
it's like finding, it's like finding the sports almanac in Back to the Future,
right?
right? Almost,
You can't make
same
these
thing.
things up. Like I found it, and I called our CFO. I was like, I think I found something that might make sure we know where we're at with this account and how to help them. And he was like, all right,
Yeah.
let me call all the executives. Everybody's coming to the office, and we're meeting on this. Um,
Mm.
so just really cool people, cool experience. And I was there at Taylor for 5 years, did well, learned a ton, and then I went to .com distribution, where I wanted like
Mm.
more of a niche focused ecom sort of. Just I don't know. I got a good vibe from Rob Kuhn and Maria Haggerty on our calls initially, and it was a pretty easy decision. I was like, this is a place where that's more important to me. I have to feel like I get along with the team, the culture. We're going to work well together. Forget compensation, like that all works out in the long run if there's a fit and
Mhm.
you like what you're doing. Um, so yeah, that led to 3 awesome years at .com, and then all of these companies have had successful exits, which kind of was part of
Mhm.
in my brain of I think I want to do something on my own and be the owner,
Yeah.
not just supporting that happening. Taylor was sold to Houston eventually, not while I was there, but Um, they were sold to Usin, successful exit there, and seemed to be doing amazing things together, the two companies. And then .com was acquired by Ryder. Um, and there was another company along the way where we sent leads to that weren't really a good fit for .com, and we just knew they would
Mhm.
have a good home at another small 3PL in Jersey, and they ended up selling last year to private equity. And the owners called me.
Mm.
They said, "Just so you know, 90% of our new business came from the leads you sent us over the 3 years, Chris."
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Yeah.
so he was like, "It's not a good idea to do your own thing. It works out."
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Interesting.
so yeah, that was really it. All the stars aligned for me. I was 35, single, and I figured let me build my own company for a year and walk away from
Mm.
dating relationships. And then, of course, nothing goes according to plan. 2 days later, after I went to start my own thing, I met my now fiance. Um, so you can't make this stuff up. It's like,
Yeah.
and that's probably the best thing that's happened in this whole journey was meeting her.
Mm.
When you look back, I'm like, everything could fail, everything I try to do, and I have someone who's been supporting me doing it along the way. Uh,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's great, and, congratulations too on the
Thank
engagement as well.
you.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting that journey because, I think so many people in our industry, they don't necessarily set out to be in the industry, and then in some way they somehow end up in the industry, like much like you do, right? I mean, you're working accounting, finance, and then you ended up coming over into the supply chain side. And I think it's very interesting too, that I love that when you went to Tailored, that they put you on the floor first before you could sell
Yeah,
anything. I think that's such a
and not just before I was selling anything. Anytime I
yeah.
closed an account, I would have to go work there. Not have to, but
Mm,
suggested and made sense to go work their operation and
mm,
learn it
yeah,
while we're doing it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's so important, to be able to understand that. And because people ask me sometimes as well because they're just coming into the space, right? And they don't really know much about the industry, and that's what I said, like, oh, well, go on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And just work on the floor for a little while, and
Operators are
you learn all
best
those parts.
salespeople
Yeah,
because they've done it on the floor. They know what it goes into it. And without being an
yeah.
operator prior, that was the closest I could come.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So very interesting there, and obviously, definitely a good amount of time in the space to see kind of what's going on. So you mentioned you're starting your own thing, or you have started your own thing, and you've been building it out, kind of. And I know we've been in touch talking about it a little bit, but I guess tell us first, I guess what did you see in the industry that was like a pain point, or that was missing, or lacking in a sense, that's kind of propelled you to go down the avenue that you're going down now?
So I don't want to say that there was one area that I identified a gap and said, let me go build something to solve it. It was a mix of what I enjoyed the most about what I was doing. And
Mm,
for me, working with the smaller brands or startups, people that were building something, just got me more excited. And I loved working with them, listening to their stories, helping however I could. So when I left, the initial plan was I can just start a small 3PL and service the smaller brands,
mm,
give them the attention they deserve, try to offer them more technology and resources than they normally have at that stage that will hopefully propel them to grow. And then the
mm,
long term plan and strategy behind it was not only do I enjoy that more, but I think I'm pretty good at identifying the ones that can make it and do well. And at the same time, if those small brands grow, I'm going to grow with them, and that
mm,
journey will be the most fun because I've seen it over the years. Now I've been in the industry long enough. I think it's like almost 10 years. I've seen brands that have reached out as a startup or pre-revenue or no volume, and just really can tell when the founders onto something. They're on a mission. They believe in themselves. They have a good plan, and I'm pretty good at identifying the ones that are, betting on the ones that are likely to succeed. And I've seen brands go
mm,
from 0 to 100 million in revenue in a couple of years, or just even in between, go from no volume to 10,000 orders a month pretty quickly. Um, so I figured that's how I want to grow. I want to grow with the brands. I don't want to go after the mid-size or larger brands that are established. That there's providers out there that can do a better job than me trying to build something from scratch. But
Mm,
if we do it the right way, and I was fortunate, I've realized, and when you leave to go do your own thing and build something, that network of other founders out there is incredible. And you meet so many cool people. And I
yeah.
had the time to, when I thought something was interesting, I could take a call or go to a meeting and learn about something that I just maybe saw value in or liked the person.
Mm,
Um, so I've now accidentally discovered some things that are out there that I never had time to really look at before. Whether it's cool technology, cool software, just amazing companies doing amazing things in our space. And now I feel like that network is just so valuable. Like if a brand comes to me and needs anything, I probably have a solution for them. And
mm,
that was part of it too. The funny story, the first company I named it, I had no idea how to form a company. This is all new to me.
yeah. Yeah.
Man, the amount of mistakes I made and things that didn't go as planned or failed. I think I named it like LF Logistics from like something my buddy and I tried to do, I don't know, 15 years
Mm,
ago. Uh,
mm,
our last names were L and F. So I named it LF Logistics, thinking maybe he'll come work with me one day. Um, but that even that name entity didn't work out and it failed. So I call that Lucas failure number one. That was like right out of the gate. That entity never got
yeah.
officially formed, even though I did it through LegalZoom properly. I thought. Um, so then my mom suggested Lucas Solutions when we were at
Mm,
dinner in the city one night, and to me that made sense. Like that's always the goal, is trying to find a solution, whether it's for a brand, for the 3PL I'm working with, or just in general on anything.
mm,
Identify a problem, or if it comes your way, you try to find a solution. And I'm pretty good at that. And it resonated with me. So whatever I do, it's probably everything will be under the Lucas Solutions umbrella.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, yeah, very interesting there. And I think that that's kind of the way you learn in a sense. Like just, try and do it, try and figure it out, and then
Yeah.
doesn't work. Well, I know that that doesn't work, so let me try it this
I'm
way,
not
right?
a
Do something different.
failure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as long as you can learn from them, I think it's good experience, right? So now, I mean, tell us a little bit too, because you went to start 3PL in a sense, right? And then you ended up started to build, and I think are still building in a sense to some software as well. So tell us a little bit about kind of what that software is solving. What is that problem in the industry that you're solving?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you. I may save diving into the software details for a little
Sure.
bit, and
Yeah.
just it's still something we're building. Uh,
Hmm.
So the way it worked out, the plan was not to build software or anything like that. Like I said, it's always you
Hmm.
identify a problem and try to come up with a solution. So when I started the 3PL, part of it was I really wanted to tie in Beauty Connect, the
Mm,
the industry conference. It's just been going for a few years now, like 4 years. That conference is amazing. The team is amazing there. So I literally just had Lucas Solutions gear made, like a couple hats, couple shirts. This was one of them,
mhm,
and picked it up like right before going to the airport to fly out to Beauty Connect LA. And that was really day one of Lucas Solutions. Just had no idea what I was doing, but put a hat on
yeah,
and said, "This is my company. Think we're going to be a 3PL. I'm going to try to open a warehouse." Um, and we gave it a pretty good effort. I didn't think it made sense to go take my own space, like budget
mhm,
wise, like that's something that was missing, and going to found something. The stars aligned as far as timing of wanting to do it, and I think I had enough experience, but certainly didn't have enough funds in the bank to go build a company, lease a warehouse.
yeah,
So I tried to get creative with it. We ran into some obstacles where the building wasn't ready, and landlord situation. Nobody's fault or anything like that. Just things you
mhm,
can't see coming. When a client's been in the same building for 25 years, and then you implement a WMS for a couple months and you're ready to go, and the landlord decides to sell the building and not renew the long-term lease that's been negotiated, you kind of just have to laugh at it. Like
yeah,
25 years in the building, and now we're ready to put a couple of brands in there, a couple of small brands, the
Yeah.
space we're created, and that's where the software comes into play. Um, this potential client at the time, when we looked at their operation, and I called in a few friends and resources in the industry that just there's so many people that are smarter and better at everything than me. So I think the most value I can ever bring is I probably know somebody who can do whatever it is better than I can.
Yeah.
And we identified that we could build some software to minimize their footprint, reduce labor, and then that would create additional space where we could support other brands and
Mm,
go from in-house fulfillment to being a 3PL. So all those plans were going great. We built some really cool software, and I think that's sometimes looking back, I'm like, we built the software for what this client needed,
mm,
with the plans of all the other cool things we could do with it. You know, the architecture, the foundation of it is built to do so many other things as well, that we just said when the time's right, when a client needs it, we'll go build that. Um, so what's happened since, like, the landlord situation and not having the space for those brands, and I'm the type that, like, yeah, I probably could have put those brands in and then had to move them 4 or 5 months later, but that didn't
mm,
feel right to me, and that's started to go, maybe I'm not meant to be a 3PL, and maybe we should focus on our
mm,
software, and you know who else in the market can benefit from what we've built already for this client, and then what else can we do with our plans for future development to accelerate them a bit and make it even more valuable to the market and for more potential clients we can serve. So that's kind of the phase we're in now. We're taking our time building it out. um, Happy to speak on it more when it's ready. I think that's a better time to do
sure.
it. Compliance focused software in the supply chain, so
Mm,
it's kind of across the board from
mm.
end
Interesting. Yeah.
compliance software. Um, and there are some different verticals that we can support. And we're in the middle of a pre-seed raise, my first time ever trying to raise funds, and that's back to that
Mm,
founder network I mentioned. Like, people just come to support you and give you advice and
yeah.
just take the time out of their lives. And I know these are some of the busiest people ever, but they're
Mm,
willing to tell you how to make a pitch deck, or what, hey, practice your pitch on me and I'll give you feedback. And to me, that's just incredibly valuable. And learned a ton. And then met some really cool partners along the way that I'm excited to start working with in the last month or so. Um,
mhm.
when you identify something, I thought there would be no way I'd ever walk away from building or doing my own thing. But then you discover some cool technologies and realize you can bring some value to them. And I think that's the
Yeah.
stage I'm at. I'm like, it would really take a lot for me to give a lot of my time to something that someone else is building. When I
Mm,
see the value in something, and I get that excited feeling that doesn't happen very often at that level. So there's some cool things in the works, some cool technology I've identified, and all of this is just back to what the original goal was of supporting those smaller brands. Still think I'm going to be able to do that even better than I would have imagined. Um,
mm.
so for me, I like keeping all those relationships and just tracking and staying in touch and always being willing to help however I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great. I mean, our industry is such a relationship based industry. I would say it's like, you know, the industry is so big, right? Because there's so much movement of goods in a sense, right? But at the same time, like from a relationship perspective, it also feels like very small, right? It's like, there's all these people
Very small.
to know, but yeah, you're like, do you know this person? Yeah, yeah, I know them. I just was talking to them last week, or something, right? So it's very connected in that sense, which I think is a great thing, and it's interesting too to hear, how going after doing kind of what you knew in a sense, right? A 3PL, right? And trying to do operationally that type of business led to the discovery of, oh, we could do something from like a solutions perspective on the software side instead. So definitely, we'll be curious as that fleshes out more and gets out there further into the market and stuff to learn more about that here on the podcast as well. But let's talk a little bit about, because you mentioned you have some involvement with Beauty Connect, right? The conference there. So I guess tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and I'm be curious too. I mean, for people that are listening, like, having involvement in a conference like that, like, how does that add kind of value to what you're trying to do, or just value to be within the industry itself?
Sure. So yeah, with conferences, now it's 10 years in the space, and it's funny at Tailored, I was
Mhm.
going to all the conferences that they asked me to go to or that were sponsoring or
Mm.
attending. I was the guy like shipping the product, the booth there, setting up the
Yeah.
booth, standing at the booth the whole time, breaking down the booth, and it was exhausting and like a whole different view on it. But at the same time, a couple takeaways from conferences. If you're going to go to a conference, I think you have to plan to invest 3 years. This was Jim DeVoe advice, and he's right. I've seen now that I've
Mm.
seen it over the years. You have to really be at a conference for at least 3 years to build a presence as a sponsor,
Mm.
or having a
Interesting.
booth,
Yeah.
or even just attending. Um, and then what I've identified is when you find a conference where it just feels right, and maybe not everyone does. I just really hit it off with the Beauty Connect team .com, and I identified it as a possible good conference to go to. They paid for me to be an attendee, and even just as a first time attendee, that team at Beauty Connect was asking me ahead of time, like, which brands do you want to talk to? We'll bring them over to you. We'll make sure it's a good conference for you. And plenty will say that, but they actually did it. Like, I felt like a
Mm.
celebrity on arrival. They're like, "Oh, so and so brand, come. This is Chris Lucas with .com." You just
Nice.
that's like usually takes me hours of strategizing and planning and like pretending to go get a drink at
Mm.
the bar to talk to this person, and they're just making
Yeah.
it like a warm intro does really go a long way. Um, so I saw the value in that conference for so many reasons, and then went again the next year, just as good, if not better, and have built a great relationship with that team and what they're doing, and it kind of they've been a major part of doing my own thing, regardless of where we end up. Because in November of 23 was Beauty Connect LA, and I went out there. I told you Lucas Solutions gear, but I just picked it up at the airport. We didn't have a company. I didn't know what we were
Yeah.
doing. I figured, let me just talk to as many people as I can and see where I can add value, whether it's consulting for brands until I have my own warehouse, um, getting more resources, or talking to brands that might need a warehouse in the future, because I'll be ready at some point. And probably the coolest thing was just the support from folks of, if you're honest, like, yeah, hey, I don't really know. This is the first time I'm wearing this hat. I just picked it up at the airport yesterday. um,
Mm.
so I met Steve Edelstein, and I had known him for a couple of years prior, but he just like listened to what I was doing and was like, I'm going to introduce you he knows everybody in the space and in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Steve.
What
Yeah.
a cool guy. Become even closer of a friend than we were at this point. And he just like took me around that conference along with the Beauty Connect team, but Steve doing it as well. I met so many people, and they were such valuable conversations, and
Mm.
um, it made me feel like, I don't know, confident that yeah, I can build something like a guy like Steve Edelstein, the king of beauty, is willing to introduce me to contacts because maybe he sees some value in me.
Mm.
Um, so that was the start, even though it was expensive to fly out there, and then you start realizing, oh my god, the companies in the past, no wonder they were really budgeting hard on which conferences to attend and make sure there's ROI and value, because it's expensive when you add in
Yeah.
travel, hotel. I brought someone out there with me as like my support system. Um, so that was cool, great start. And then crazy stuff happens, right? I was at dinner on Long Island, and I met Jose Quintana by chance. Didn't know who he was at the
Mm.
time, and we kind of just hit it off and became friendly. And then I started watching Mets games more and texting him like when he had a great performance. Um,
Mm.
and this all does tie together. So I, like, after I got engaged and was just kind of celebrating that I think I'm gonna have fun doing my own thing. Like, it's working so
Yeah.
far. Maybe definitely too early to celebrate, but I was having fun going to Mets games. Felt like there was a lot of cool things happening, so I bought a suite for a Mets game. I was like, I'll invite friends,
Mm.
family, business contacts, whoever. Just bring cool people together and have a good time at a Mets game. Watch Jose pitch, maybe. Um,
Yeah.
So we had like 40. This was all last minute. I had like 45 people ready to attend, which was pretty cool for like a week's notice I gave people.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
even the Beauty Connect contact Christian was flying in from the UK. His girlfriend was flying in from Atlanta. Most people were local that were coming, and the game got rained out and postponed the day. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god! It took all this effort to get 45 people, their information, their tickets electronically, like all of it.
Mm,
And these are the two that are flying in and they're already in town, and the game was canceled. So
yeah.
tickets to the next night, just with like a smaller group to go since they were in town, and it worked out. Like because of the rain out, Jose was pitching that night, and I call him Jose Wintana because he typed his name wrong. He typed his name wrong in my phone. The Q and W are right next to each other, and he typed
Yeah.
W just by accident, and I started calling him Jose Wintana. Obviously, pretty fitting. Uh,
Mm.
and then I've been a Yankees fan all my life, but I started having more fun watching Mets games. So I
Oh boy. Oh, interesting there. Yeah.
I've always rooted for both teams. Grew up a Yankees fan, but it made it more fun when you're like somehow connected to the team, even though it's
Yeah.
like very minimal. Like, yeah, okay, I can text Jose after the game and say, "Great game," or whatever we want to talk about. Um, but so what happened was we're at that game with Beauty Connect folks and my Mets contact because I'd gone to a bunch of games. Like I started going all the time. At the end of that season, they were out of the post, like no chance of making the playoffs. Tickets were more reasonable, so I was buying like
Mm,
behind home plate every time Jose was pitching. Um, and we're sitting there, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this suite for next year. Like, I got a
mm,
60-person section booked for whatever game I decide. And Christian from Beauty Connect was like, "Well, we're doing the New York event in June. Do you want to like use it for that
mm,
in some way?" So then the Mets contact is there, and we're looking at the dates. And Beauty Connect was scheduled for, believe it or not, because they're from the UK. The Mets were playing in London the day of Beauty Connect New York. And we're
oh.
like, oh my god!
It's like trading
The
places.
team
Yeah.
at Beauty Connect went and changed the date of the event. It was early on enough that it hadn't been
Oh wow.
communicated, marketed that much, and they changed the date to line up with a Mets game, and it turned
Nice.
into a real. The plan was, oh, I'll have a warehouse ready by then and can service brands.
Mm.
And it was like 2 weeks before the event when we found out we don't have a warehouse, and I was like, I got
Oh
to make
wow.
this event
Mm.
valuable somehow. I've spent a lot of money to sponsor it, uh,
Yeah.
and we still like the connections that have come from that alone. Maybe not immediately paying off, and
Hmm.
I don't view it as like getting my money back. I think these are incredible connections that all appreciated going to a Mets game. The Mets were 11 games or 10 games under 500 when we went, and I told everyone
Mm,
there they're going to make the wild card and make a run. I believe in this
mm.
team, especially Jose. And look what happened. Like they made me look pretty smart.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, yeah. Interesting there,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, I mean, I think that's such
They
a
lost the game we were at, and then that's when they won
mm,
7 in a row right after that and made a run and got
mm.
back in the mix. And
Oh,
really
see,
cool.
you guys started it
I
there,
think
yeah.
so. They like to give Grimace a lot of credit, but we were there
Yeah.
like the day before Grimace, supporting them at their lowest point.
Yeah, interesting there, and I think that's a testament to, as we were talking earlier about the like the relationships in the industry, and that kind of just goes to show, like, developing those relationships and nurturing them in a sense, pays out those long term dividends, which I think is really important and a great takeaway here from this conversation that we've had. And I think it's really interesting to learn from you, and learn about your background and what you've experienced in the industry and how everything has kind of evolved. But I think, in everything you say, I mean, underlying that is the relationships overall, right?
Yeah.
That have kind of helped you to continue to push forward, and maybe not quite know what's next, but has like led you to what's next in a
If I
sense,
acted
right?
like I knew what was next, you would talk
Yeah.
to me in 3, 6 months, or a year from now, and it'd probably be entirely different. And we'd laugh at how silly that was that I thought that's what I was doing. That's
I
what I've
appreciate it,
realized. Like
definitely.
you can plan the best you can, but you can't see
Mm,
everything that's going to come your way, good and bad, obstacles and amazing things that you just don't see coming. Like I said, I've met some amazing partners. A lot of it, believe it or not, was because of Beauty Connect too. Like Highline Commerce, the
mm,
way that they're servicing startup brands and what they're doing,
yeah.
growing, and then they had invested in Rabo, you know,
Mm.
cameras and AI vision software at the pack stations, and I was like, oh my god, Richard Hurley and the Highline team are doing what I wanted to do in New Jersey with my warehouse. Have to
Yeah.
talk to them. So like all these cool, that was like I literally had spent a fortune sponsoring Beauty Connect, and I took 30
Mm.
minutes out of that conference to go talk to Richard and the Rabo founders because I was like,
Yeah.
that's worth. I feel like there's really something cool there.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we'll see what's next. I'll keep you updated.
All right, sounds good, and definitely love Richard over at Highline and China at Rabo as well. So definitely appreciate you coming on and talking to me today, Chris. And really interesting to learn about all these different avenues you've gone down in the industry. And like I said, I think the big takeaway here is that importance of the relationship in the industry, which I think goes such a long way. So if people are interested in getting in touch with you or learning more about Lucas Solutions, maybe more about what you're building, or maybe they want to give you some money, you mentioned you're going into pre-seed there, right? So what's the best way to get in touch or learn more?
I think my email is probably on my LinkedIn, or yeah, anybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on there all the time checking it and trying to stay up to date. Um, CDL, Christopher David Lucas. It's just my initials at
Mm.
lucassolutions.com. Or find me on LinkedIn. You'll see my picture from when I was at Beauty Connect. I took a potential customer or just a good contact to the Lakers game. And the first day wearing the Lucas Solutions hat, I got on TV at the Lakers game with courtside seats. And that
Okay.
became my LinkedIn profile picture. Pretty exciting. Um, so yeah, find me on LinkedIn, send me an email, figure out a way to get in touch, and I'm happy to have conversations and see how I can add value.
All right, awesome. And we'll definitely put all those links at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes so people can easily find it. So, Chris, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
Appreciate it, Kevin. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.